Hello everyone, welcome to today's session. In our today's session, we'll learn protocol layers and their service model. But before we start, let's revise our previous lecture. In our previous lecture, we have learned two terms, throughput and loss. So we can say that throughput means number of packets successfully received by the receiver host. So that is called the throughput, and the loss means if we pass 5 packets from sender host and from that only the 4 packet reaches to the receiver host. So there 1 packet is lost. So that is called the loss. So that is our previous lecture. So let's start with the today's session. In the today's session, we will learn protocol layers and their service models. So what is a protocol layers? So computer network must provide a general, cost-effective, fair and robust connectivity among a large number of computers. Designing a network to meet this requirement is not a small task. To deal with this complexity, network designers have to develop a network architecture, and it guides the design and implementation of the networks. So what it said that if I want to create one big network, or if I want to set up one big network on my organization, then it is a very difficult task. That how it can achieve a cost effective, it is a fair, or it is a robust connectivity among a large numbers of computers. So this is not a small task. It meets a very high requirement. So to deal with that complexity, the designer has developed a network architecture. So it is called the reference model, and by using that model we can implement our own network architecture. So that is called the protocol layers and their service models. So what that model do is it guides the designing and implementation of the network. So it says that how we can implement our network. So it provides some reference, and based on that we can implement our networks. So there are mainly two types of service model, which is a OSI model and TCP/IP model. So let's understand it with the OSI model. So what is the OSI model? The OSI model is an important topic in the programming world, and also a must-learn concept of any computer science major. But what does it stand for, and how does it help us to understand a networking problem? Today let's dive into the answering this question. The OSI model stands for Open System Interconnection Model. It is a conceptual model that is used to understand the computer network. The OSI model acts as a roadmap of what is happening within the network and helps to see how information is transferred across the network. Each layer of OSI model handles a specific job and communicates with layers above and below itself. So here we can see that this is one reference OSI model which has 7 layers. So OSI is a reference model for any networking system. If you want to learn about, or if you want to learn deep into the networking, then the must learn thing is a OSI model. You have to learn the OSI model to understand the core networking. If you learn the OSI model properly, then you can achieve so now you can able to understand whole computer network. So this is the reference model of any networking system. So we can say that the OSI model acts as a roadmap of what is happening within the network, and it helps how information is transferred across the network. So typically it has 7 layers, and that 7 layers are application layer, presentation layer, session layer, transport layer, network layer, data link layer, and physical layer. So each layer has their own individual works. Yes. So based on figure we can see that the physical layer, that it transmits a raw bits stream over the physical medium, while in the data, the work of data link layer is defines and formats of data in the network. On the network layer, decide which physical path the data will take. Transport layer decides transmit the data using a transmission protocol include TCP and UDP. Session layer maintains the connection and is responsible for controlling ports and the session. Presentation layer ensures that data is usable format and is where data encryption occurs. And last is the application layer, in which human computer interaction layer, where the application can access the network services. So each layer has their own individual work. And if sender wants to send a data packets to the receiver host, then the data packets have to pass through these 7 layers. So we'll understand these 7 layers into the deeper in our later session. But let's understand why the OSI model is matter. So why the OSI model is important. So why this conceptual model used? Why bother using it when we can simply discuss the infrastructure of its networking system? Yes, because networks are complex. The model uses layers to help give a high level description of what is going on within a particular networking system. It describes what goes on communication system without going into the details of its underlying technology. The structure of OSI models allows people to discuss problems going on in a networking system and discuss the relationship between the components of the system more easily. So for example, when network is broken, the OSI model provides a way to quickly focus on the issues. Is it the problem with the application or the physical issue? Yes. So with the help of OSI layer, we can quickly focus on the issue, that on which layer the issue is occurred, and we can solve that issues very easily. So the internet or the any network is a very complicated system, and it consists of numerous hosts, routers, data link applications, protocols, hardware and software. We need a way to understand it all from high level, or we had to get a focus pretty fast, and this is where the OSI model comes in. So that is why the OSI model is very important. Although the modern internet doesn't strictly follow the OSI model, but the OSI model is still very useful for troubleshooting the network problems. Whether it's one person who can't get their laptop on the internet or a website being down for the thousands of users, the OSI model can help to break down the problem and isolate the source of the trouble. If the problem can be narrowed down to the one specific layer of the model, a lot of unnecessary work can be avoided. So let's assume that if there is no OSI model, yes, and if I send a data packet to the receiver host and the receiver doesn't get the packet, so how can we troubleshoot that, where exactly problem occurred? So with the help of OSI model, we can troubleshoot that on exactly on which layer the error occurred, so we can retransmit that packet from that layer, so we can get the data packet successfully at the receiver host. So that is why the OSI model is very, very important. So this is the traditional diagram of OSI model, where each layers are defined. Yes. So there is one problem, that which is the first layer of OSI model. Yes. We can consider a physical layer as a first layer, and we can also consider a application layer as a first layer. So that is based on the situation. Suppose sender sends the data, so on the sender side, application layer is the first layer, because sender directly touch on the applications like Gmail. So if sender wants to send the data, then sender is directly touch with the application layer. So on the sender side, application is the first layer and the physical layer is the last layer, while on the receiver side, the physical layer is the first layer and the application layer is the last layer, because after passing this all layers, then after the data is received at the receiver host. So that is why on the receiver side, physical layer is the first layer and the application layer is the last layer. Okay, So this is the typical diagram of OSI model. Now you can remember the layers name with the one simple phrase, because there are 7 layers, so to remember that name of that layer is very difficult task. So this is a very simple, so this is one simple phrase. By using that you can easily remember the name of that layers, like please do not throw a saucy pizza away. So here we can relate please with the physical layer, do with the data link layer, not with the network layer, throw with the transport layer, saucy with the session layer, pizza with the presentation layer, and the away with the application layer. Okay, so I hope you all like the pizza, yes, and you do not throw pizza away. So I hope by using that phrase you can easily remember the OSI model, layers of the OSI model. So that is the introduction of OSI model. So let's revise our today's lecture. In this layer we see that what is a protocol layers and their service model. So if you want to build the computer network, then it is a very difficult task. So for that we have some reference model, and by using that model we can easily set up our networks. So that models are of two types, which is OSI model and the TCP/IP model. What is the OSI model? Then OSI stands for Open System Interconnection Model, and it acts as a roadmap of what is happening within a network. So by using that model we can implement our core networking. Next is layers of the OSI model. There are 7 layers, which is application layer, presentation layer, session layer, transport layer, network layer, data link layer, and the physical layer. Next is why does the OSI model matters. So I already said that if I want to troubleshoot a networking problem without OSI model, it is very tricky task. So with the help of OSI model we can easily troubleshoot the problems that on which layer the error is occurred, or where the error is on the physical device or it is on the software. So that is troubleshoot very easily with the OSI model. And this is a typical or the traditional figure of OSI model, which is a reference model. Actually OSI model is not implemented. OSI model is just a reference model, and with the help of or with the reference of OSI model, the implemented model is a TCP/IP model. So this is a reference OSI model. Next is how to remember the layers of OSI model. So the phrase is please do not throw a saucy pizza away. So on that phrase we can easily remember the data. We can easily remember the layers of the OSI model. So that's it for the today's session. From next lecture we'll learn each layer of OSI model in details. So that's it. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day.